Hello all, it's James Johnson, aka Sulphur Blade, and I'm here with paint, which is going to assist me in doing yet another one of my famous videos where I utilize paint, but sadly I haven't turned it into pie charts this time. This time it's kind of a word salad, if you will. Just a simple comparison between the right and the left. And once again, I put the right on the left and the left on the right. I need to remember not to do that, but I digress. So let's jump into some of these. Well, to some of us, these may be simple concepts. To others of you, these may be concepts that you've heard before but never quite understood. Like, maybe you watched Jordan Peterson talk with, I don't know, somebody else scholarly, and Jordan Peterson loves to throw out some of these terms in an assumption that the person he was talking with understood the term, and also with an assumption that those watching him understood the term. Not everyone always understood what he was saying because he tended to operate well at a level a little bit higher than your standard person. His synapses fired a bit quicker than most, if you will. So let's get into some of these terms and how they relate to the current cultural war that's going on in the United States. How they matter. How do these things affect you and me and everyone around us? So over on the left, I have the Republicans and classical Democrats. And I've listed 4 terms and their definitions that I believe, well, that I feel relate to that group. And then on the right, I've listed 3 terms that are kind of opposite terms to the 4 terms on the right that I feel relate to progressives. And the first one we're going to go through is meritocracy. Meritocracy is a social system in which advancement in society is based on an individual's capability and merits rather than on the basis of family, wealth, or social. What do we mean by social? Well, that's kind of the important part of meritocracy that I espouse to. So, for example, if you get this score on your SAT and you get this score on your ASVAB and you get this score on your, what's the other test? I forget what the other test is. Anyway, you write your letter to the university that you're wanting to join. You give them your portfolio of these are the grades you got in high school. You were valedictorian. You were salutatorian. This is your ASVAB. This is your SAT. And they look at the package. If they're looking at the package in a way that would dictate meritocracy, they would look at the people that have the most accomplishments, that are the most meritorious, and they would be the people that would be chosen for those seats to enter their college or institution. Basically, they're choosing the best person for the job based off of the merits of what those people have done. That is meritocracy. Sadly, we don't live in a system where meritocracy prevails. We live in a system where equality of outcome, which is the second one down on the right, equality of outcome is described as a state in which people have approximately the same material wealth and income, or in which general economic conditions of their lives are alike. Achieving equal results generally entails reducing or eliminating material inequalities between individuals or households in a society, and usually involves a transfer of income or wealth from wealthier to poorer individuals, or adopting other measures to promote equality of condition. A related way of defining equality of outcome is to think of it as equality in the central and valuable things in life. So valuable things in life are getting that spot in that college. Well, if you have a white male who is the most meritorious, and the next most meritorious is a white female, and the third most meritorious is a black female, in a system dictated by equality of outcome, you will ignore meritocracy in preference of equality of outcome. So that seat that you would have normally given to the most outstanding candidate, which would have been the white male, is now going to be given to the black female, because there is a mysterious hierarchy of groups that are quote-unquote oppressed. And so the more oppressed group you belong to, the higher in the food chain of equality of outcome you get. So if, for example, female Hispanics are more oppressed than female blacks, then the female Hispanic who's fourth in line might get the place over the female black who was third in line. Though I'm pretty sure the ranking of most oppressed categories usually does put female blacks in preference over female Latinos, which is just ridiculous. It goes against meritocracy completely. And meritocracy is the only thing that is fair. Meritocracy is fair. The best person should get the job regardless of race, creed, nationality, skin color. Period. Meritocracy is not racist. It's the exact opposite of racist. Equality of outcome is racist. It's giving preferred outcome to a racial group because of the group they belong to. This is what some of us call reverse racism, and it's bad. All right, let's continue on. Capitalism, an economic system in which investment in and ownership of the means of production, distribution, and exchange of wealth is made and maintained chiefly by private individuals or corporations, especially as contrasted to cooperatively or state-owned means of wealth. Capitalism is very much the contrast or the opposite to socialism, which socialism is social, an economic doctrine that calls for public rather than private ownership or control of property and natural resources. According to the socialist view, individuals do not live or work in isolation, but live in cooperation with one another. Furthermore, everything that people produce, in some sense, a social product, and everyone who contributes to the production of a good is entitled to a share in it. Society as a whole, therefore, should own or at least control property for the benefit of all its members. Now, when you read socialism and its definition, it paints a very warm, fuzzy picture. I will give it that. You know, if you watch Gene Roddenberry's Star Trek, Starfleet and the world that they lived in was very much a socialist world. They had no wants. They all added to the greater good of the socialist system as a whole. But sadly, we do not have replicators in the world. If you talk to your computer, or you asked Alexa, or whatever your device responds to, and you say, you know, computer or Alexa, tea, Earl Grey, you'll typically get a witty response like, sorry, the replicators are not working today. We don't have replicators. We can't magically produce steak and eggs out of thin air. So when you try to put socialism to practice in the real world, it always fails to work because people are different. And what do I mean by people are different? Some people are fucking lazy. And other people are real go-getters that work their ass off, work hard, and they get what they work for. Their accomplishments matter. If you're gonna sit on your ass all day and do nothing, you don't deserve anything. You haven't worked for it. You haven't done anything for it. You can't demand that the person who's worked his ass off give a portion of his production to you because you've been too lazy to move your fucking keister. That's not how it works in the real world. So in a capitalist society, which most of us like because most of us want to get out of society what we put into it. Yes, there's situations where you can get unlucky. You can work your ass off and the stars are not aligned and your business fails. But if you don't give up and you work hard and you try again, your business might not fail the second time. Or it might fail a second time. It might take a third time of working your ass off to get your business off the ground before you finally break out. But sadly, most people in society don't work like that. Most people in society are content to go to their part-time job as a checker at a grocery store, and then complain about how their boss treats them, and go through this drudgery of life. Sure, it can seem like you might be stuck in this pitiful situation with no way to get out. Or is that an excuse you've concocted in your mind to hold yourself down. If you don't like your job, did you go look for other jobs? When you got off work, did you go home to sit on your ass in front of the TV and put your feet in water because, oh my God, the day was so hard, and then you passed out in your bed and you woke up to do it all over again? Or did you take the extra hour or two to look for a different job that might help better your situation? But if I go look for a different job, I'm going to be even more exhausted the next day. Well, yeah, that's how it works, isn't it? If you're not willing to put in the effort to better your situation in a capitalist society, you are freely holding yourself back. Capitalism is not bad. Some people get lucky, right? Some people happen to be born into circumstance. Their parents have a little bit more money than the other person. They get sent off to a ritzy college, and they get a cushy job, working 9 to 5, making an income that makes them feel comfortable. But generally, those people, while they might be comfortable, they don't ever become millionaires or billionaires because they don't have the gumption for it. They don't have the desire or the wherewithal or the push to push them into that nature. Sure, they may have gotten lucky to be comfortable, and I could see where somebody who's born into a harder set of starting cards could find that frustrating. But again, this is America. No matter what you're born into, if you work your ass off, you can succeed. And that's what's good about capitalism. Socialism, on the other hand, hasn't worked anywhere it's been tried. Look at Venezuela. Look at these countries that have gone socialist. We don't want that here. All right, equality of opportunity. So if you ever watch Jordan Peterson, he loves to talk about equality of opportunity, and rightfully so. Equality of opportunity versus equality of outcome is one of the biggest issues in modern society. It is, from my viewpoint, the only fair way that society can operate. Equality of outcome is not fair. Equality of outcome is fucking racist. But equality of opportunity is fair. Equality of opportunity, when it prevails, the assignment of individuals to place in the social hierarchy is determined by some form of competitive process, and all members of society are eligible to compete on equal terms. That's capitalism, folks. Equality of opportunity goes hand in hand in a capitalist society. That's basically saying no matter what caste you're born into, you could be a poor black kid in the Bronx of New York with, next to nothing to your name, but if you work hard, you could still become Senator Tim Scott, for instance. You could be a senator, or hell, you could become the next Barack Obama and become president of the United States. It's up to you what you accomplish in a capitalist society because of equality of opportunity, not because equality of outcome. Equality of outcome actually detracts from equality of opportunity. If you're working your ass off and you happen to be a white male and you've done everything right, you still don't get selected for the job and or selection you should have gotten based off of meritocracy. because equality of outcome has decided that this other person who's part of this socially oppressed group should get it before you. So equality of opportunity is really the only true and fair way that society should operate, regardless of race, skin, sex, political affiliation. Equality of opportunity is the only thing that makes sense. And then individualism. Individualism. Oh, I can't say enough about individualism. It feels like our young Americans have forgotten to think for themselves these days. They seem to think based off of their favorite YouTuber, which is ironic, seeing as I'm a YouTuber doing a YouTube video trying to convince people to wake the fuck up. But I don't want people to follow what I say because I'm really smart, right? So they've decided that I'm really smart and they want to model their life after my ideas. That's not individualism, right? That is them being, I guess, part of my social group. They have decided that they're going to become a herd behind me and follow my cues and do what I do. And that's what happens, and it seems like that's what happens a lot in today's society. Is we have a lot of young Americans who are like, well, Joe Rogan said this, so that's what I believe, or Tim Pool said that, so that's what I believe, or Alex Jones said this, so that's what I believe. I mean, people need to start fucking thinking for themselves. Using that gift that God gave you between your ears and weighing up the pros and cons between various different issues and coming to the best result that is most beneficial for you, the individual. Anyway, individualism, political and social philosophy that emphasizes the moral worth of the individual. Although the concept of an individual may seem straightforward, there are many ways of understanding it, both in theory and in practice. The term individualism itself is equivalent in other languages, dates like socialism and other isms from the 19th century. I cannot stress enough that you need to be an individual and not part of the hive. Individualism, to me, in today's society, is the exact opposite of being an SJW, of being a social justice warrior. We'll read the very misconstrued definition of a social justice warrior based off of the wiki, in that you can tell this definition has been colored to fit a narrative. Anyway, here we go. Social justice warrior is a pejorative term for an individual who promotes social progressive views, including feminism, civil rights, and multiculturalism. The accusation that somebody is an SJW carries implications that they are pursuing personal validation rather than any deep-seated conviction and engaging in disingenuous arguments. So, I don't think this definition is very good at all. An SJW, in my simplified term, is a hive-minded individual that pushes a hive-minded ideology. So, what is an SJW? An SJW is a feminist who pushes feminism. What's an SJW? An SJW is a Black Lives Matter protester who pushes their Black Lives Matter Marxist agenda. That is what an SJW is. When you are thinking as part of a social construct or a social group, instead of thinking for your goddamn individual self, you are an SJW in my book. So, how does that fall into the political narratives that we have before us? So, none of these things here really fall underneath a Republican platform or a Democratic platform. These are not your Second Amendment rights, your right to bear arms. These are not your right to choose whether or not to have an abortion. None of these things are what you would consider a classical part of a political platform. But yet, this is the platform of 2020. This is why people are voting one way or another. The progressives believe this crap on the right. They believe in socialism. They believe in equality of outcome. They believe in their social justice warfare crap. They believe in thinking with a hive mentality. They believe in cancel culture. They believe in this shit, is what it is. Because, I don't know, they've somehow been turned into this evil hive mind of people with jello between their ears that can't bother to fucking think for themselves. All they can do is repeat what MSNBC or CNN put on their TV screen. These people they're sad, pathetic. I mean, they're almost like a cancer in society, in my opinion. And they're the closest thing that has ever come to destroying our great country is the huge number of people with this cancerous thought process that are bringing our country down. And it's very sad. Now, over on the left, you have Republicans and classical Democrats. So, there are some good Democrats out there. But they don't get talked about. You don't see them on mainstream media. Tulsi Gabbard is a perfect example of a very sane Democrat. The only time you ever saw Tulsi Gabbard on the news was when she ripped apart Harris in the beginning of the year and forced Harris right out of the presidential runnings because she made Harris look like a clown. Why don't we see more of Tulsi tearing Gabbard apart now that Gabbard is the vice president pick? Because media doesn't want to show that. The mainstream media is a political motivated group. They are not interested in giving you the facts so you can make an educated opinion based off of your own individualistic ability to rationally take the pros and cons of a situation. That's what news used to do. News used to give you the pros and the cons, and you could take with the information as you deemed fit. to make your educated choice based off of the news giving you a neutral viewpoint, regardless of how stupid the issue might have been. So, cat climbs tree in Umpty Squatch Park. Local officials consider cutting down tree to save future cats. News at 11. They didn't say the tree should be cut down to save future cats. They said the local government is considering it, right? And a cat was saved. Oh, thank God! Great. So I know that's a very simplistic version of old news. New news wouldn't report that. New news would be like, cat climbs problematic tree that has nearly killed 10,000 cats before it. Tree needs to be cut down. Local officials are in agreement. Tree will be cut down next week. The fact that it's a historical marker and was planted by Betsy Ross doesn't really matter. We're going to cut it down. And the 800,000 individuals gathered around it protecting it, we're not going to tell you about them. That's the example of the news today. I know it's a bizarre construct that I've put out before you, but it's a very accurate one. So, if you get anything from this long-winded diatribe about these terms, maybe if you just now have a better understanding of these terms, so that when they're being used, you can more easily associate, equality of opportunity. I know what he's talking about here. Or equality of outcome. That sounds good at first, but it's not really, is it? It's good in theory, but when you put it in practice, not so much. And that's what most progressive things are. Is they're good in theory. Socialism is good in theory, but when you put it in practice, it's not so much. But yeah, so I'll end the video here. Anyway, I'm James Johnson, aka Sulfurblade. This is my content. Hopefully you're enjoying it. If so, please leave a like and subscribe. And until the next video, if you're a classical Democrat or Republican, for the love of God, vote Trump 2020. Anyway, have a nice day.